Has your opinion of Brandon Aiyuk changed? Not just because of this one game against the Rams, but because of maybe the last few weeks.
No, I mean, maybe some people's opinions of him has changed, but I predicted during the year that Brandon Aiyuk was going to be the leading receiver on the 49ers. I said that before the year. I still think it's happening. I think he is right now. I think he's trending that way. I think he's still underutilized, underrated, league wide. Brandon Aiyuk is a really good wide receiver. We saw some stats. I don't know if you have those handy, but I think he had 2 drops, and
He only has 2 drops all season on 55 targets. That's 3.6%. That's phenomenal. And he only had 4 drops last year. He's a really good player. I got another stat for you. When targeted this year, quarterback rating of 120.
Wow.
118 last year. He's so underutilized. If they had a quarterback, if he played with Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Aaron Rodgers, he would probably score 15 touchdowns a year and have 1,500 receiving yards. But he's on this team like battling for targets with the running back, who's good too. Yeah. But it was interesting in the first half to see Cooper Kupp go crazy and Brandon Aiyuk not get the ball. It's like, hey, you wonder why you're losing. And then in the second half, they come out and get him the ball. That was good.
Like they should have been doing that all year. It took them a while. What was it, game 3 or 4 before they actually really started targeting him enough? Aiyuk I think he's really underrated, underutilized. They could get him even more targets. I have a question for you, Grant. Something I've been thinking about, and I like to ask questions that maybe aren't as positive for the 49er fan base. Do you think with CMC now and with Brandon Aiyuk, when you look back on the contract they gave Debo, do you feel the same about that contract? Do you think it was good? Do you think it was
the Debo contract? The Debo contract?
Yeah.
No. And I've pushed for it, but I'm starting to think like the Niners have such a bad record keeping players healthy that they probably shouldn't bet on their ability to keep players healthy deep into their second contracts, which is one reason I'm still skeptical of the Christian McCaffrey trade, even though he had a great game yesterday. Look at Debo now. You paid him because of his best year. You paid him because of his best year. Same with Eric Armstead. Not that he didn't have good years before then, but it was all based on his best year, and you projected that he could keep it going when so far he hasn't. And they haven't been able to keep him healthy. So you look at Brandon Aiyuk, he's actually been the more consistent player. He hasn't had the highs of Debo, but he missed 4 games his rookie year. He missed no games last year. He's missed no games this year. He's in great shape. He goes to every practice. He's a really good pro. He doesn't drop the ball. Frankly, he's the kind of guy, if you had to give a second contract out, you feel good about it with him, at least so far. You don't have to do it yet. But again, you can wait with Aiyuk. So far, it's the kind of guy that you'd like to keep long-term and probably won't be able to because you've given out all these contracts already, and you don't even use them enough as is. How can you justify it?
Yeah, literally, who's the number 1 receiver on this team? Number 1 wide receiver on this team? It's Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah.
But Debo's getting paid the number 1 wide receiver money. And I like Debo, man. And obviously his yards after the catch, when he gets the ball in his hands, he's amazing. But if we're being honest, he drops the ball a lot. And he's not the best target. And he's not the fastest guy on the team. Brandon Aiyuk's the number 1 wide receiver on this team. And so I'm hoping that they can keep him long term, especially if Trey's the guy next year. I think Aiyuk's a better receiver for Trey. So.
I just think it's going to be really interesting to see how Kyle divvies up the targets when all the weapons are healthy, because there's a lot of mouths to feed. There's a lot of egos in this offense. Aiyuk hasn't gotten paid yet. He needs his targets, and frankly, he deserves them. He's been here all year, and he's having tremendous success. You just got Christian McCaffrey, who got 8 catches in this last game. Debo makes a ton of money and expects a lot of targets. Kittle makes a ton of money and expects a lot of targets. It's a run-first team. They just threw 25 times. That's it in this last game, and that's how they win. So it's going to be really interesting. The last 2 games before this, Aiyuk got 11 targets each, and they lost, which is so weird. Like, the more they give the ball to Aiyuk, the less their chances of winning, because it's not his fault. It's just he does his best work downfield. Intermediate outside, deep middle, chunk plays. The quarterback isn't designed to get on the ball there. The offensive line isn't designed to block that long. And the head coach has no desire to really call those plays. So, he's great, but if you force it to him on this team, you get out of your identity. So it's a catch-22. It's too bad. Maybe Brandon should go somewhere else. I feel bad for you, Brandon. It kind of feels like when Stephon Diggs was on the Vikings, kind of like playing his position but being held back, and then just he left. Got to go.
What scares me though about getting rid of Brandon Aiyuk is now who's your real receiver? You don't. I mean, Debo's limited what he can do as a receiver. Again, I love him. He's awesome. Yards after catch. He's the guy. But he's not a pure wide receiver that's catching the hard passes. And then you got Juwan Jennings, who's a possession receiver. So you really don't have a number one. If you get rid of Brandon Aiyuk, you don't have a number one wide receiver. They can't do that.
Yeah, if you get rid of him, all they have is like yak specialists. And the thing that's cool about Aiyuk is he's good after the catch too.
Yeah,
he's good at everything.
Yeah.
What's funny is Kurt Warner really went after him this week. Really singled him out, and it made good points. Like, look, this is bad route running. This is sloppy route running. This is not a good dig route. You got to get the inside release. This was not a good slant. You got to get upfield more. Well, you see how he responded. That's the way a really good athlete responds. Okay, thank you for pointing that out. Watch me kick ass this week.
Yeah, and who's really at fault for that? Is it Aiyuk or is it his coaches?
Well, both.
Yeah.
Both. But they all got to own it, and look at how he responded.
Yeah.
Like 2 days later. It was nice.
Yeah. I'm a big Aiyuk guy, man. I really think the Niners need him moving forward, particularly if Trey Lance is the guy next year. I think that's a better matchup than Debo is with Trey Lance.